I'm going to be trying a slight format change with a critical thoughts to see what people think. Instead of doing 2 major lessons per video, we're going to condense it down to one and see people like a more meatier, more streamlined topic. And what better one to pick than for my first one here than talking about why, if you want to study design, you need to play games at their highest possible difficulty. Before we begin the topic, it's important to clarify that we're not talking about the concept of getting good. If you are a consumer, YouTuber, streamer, regular person who just wants to play a game and you want to use every assist option, easy mode, God mode, infinite ammo, whatever, more power to you. What I'm talking about specifically is from the role of a reviewer as well as someone who studies or wants to learn design. When we talk about action or reflex-driven games, the reason why play on the highest difficulty is important is twofold. First, is it allows you to see what is the kind of apex design, or the apex gameplay that the game expects out of the player. And two, this allows you to see any frustration or problems or imbalances with the combat system of a game. When you play a game on easier modes, when it only takes 1 to 2 hits to kill an enemy, they may only do like 2-3 points of damage, you're not able to see certain issues that can rear their head. One of the big ones are imbalanced or otherwise useless skills or weapons. A skill that offers very low utility but has high risk to use, it doesn't really matter playing on easy. Oh no, the enemy hits me, I take 3 out of 500 points of health. If we're playing on super masochistic nightmare, that's not easy to say, and I have this super slow, incredibly long-winded attack, and the enemy can just hit me for 80 points of damage before I can even get that first wide swing, that's not a good skill for your game. Also, we can start to see where combat systems begin to break down. If you don't have good defensive options, let's say this is a game where you have no dodge canceling, and enemies are 2.5 to 3 times faster than you, well, doesn't matter how great your block is, if every time you try and swing your sword or do a hit, the enemy just immediately rushes in and kills you. We can also see where things become very health spongy or just very weird or awkward to play. In God of War 2018, a lot of people love that game. I wasn't one of those people. I found combat to be very repetitive, very frustrating, and the whole gear equipment system, I just really hated that. And if you're playing the game on the easier settings, those misgivings, those issues don't really rear their head. Again, if everything dies in 2 or 3 hits, you're not going to see a repetitive combat tree or combat string if it's boom, boom, dead. But when you play on the highest difficulty, it becomes far more apparent that there are imbalances in this design. And yes, I beat God of War 2018 on Gimme God of War mode, and I did the Valkyrie Queen fight. That was a whole lot of masochism right there. The goal of the designer and the goal of good difficulty design is twofold. One, the difficulty should allow anyone of any skill level to play your game and get a full and finished experience. A common thing that I see from developers when they're trying to balance easy, normal, hard, masochism, ultra masochism, super duper masochism, and so on, is disabling certain systems. Whether it's, hey, if you're playing this on easy mode, you don't need to worry about health recharges. Or, hey, if you're playing this on masochism mode, you're not allowed to block anymore. This is not good difficulty design. The reason, again, is that as somebody plays your game, they should be able to experience your entire gameplay loop. If you are purposely turning on or off systems, whether to make the game easier or harder, that means you really don't have an established core gameplay loop or action system. And again, If you want to turn off annoying or challenging things for an assist mode option or stuff like that, fine. If you want to have in a horror game, let's say infinite flashlights or infinite oil as a toggleable, go for it. But also think about, why would everyone want to have those features turned off? Or, again, as an assist option, turn it on to use. Because here's the other big point. Difficulty by itself, or just simply changing stats and values around, it doesn't solve pain points or problems with your design. Something that is incredibly frustrating and annoying to do on normal difficulty is going to be the same way on easy mode. And it's going to be even more if we're on very hard difficulty. Now, the second point about good difficulty design, this is something that is not often talked about enough, is that good difficulty balance and design should reward the player intrinsically to push up, to give them a reason to try to raise the stakes in some way, shape, or form. This can be done either explicitly with having rewards. Hey, you beat the game on normal, now do it on hard, now do it on very hard. But this can also be done as a way for a player to see if they want to prove or see if they're better at this game. Doom Eternal is a really good example of really good difficulty design. Whether you're playing the game on I'm Too Young to Die or Nightmare, I'm not counting Ultra Nightmare because it's simply just a hardcore variant on top of Nightmare. But regardless of the difficulty you play as, the enemy spawns are the same, the progression through the game is the same, all the arena encounters are the same. They are not removing or increasing the enemy count. What is changing is the overall aggressiveness of the enemies, and essentially how many mistakes you can make when you play Doom Eternal. If you are someone who's playing this game on normal difficulty and you get through every arena hitless, you are just finding the game on the loop easy to do, you could probably bump it up to hard and not even skip a beat. Maybe you can even go up to Nightmare difficulty. But again, the point is, regardless of the difficulty that you are playing on, the gameplay loop is complete and it is consistent all the way around. Too many developers, again, will remove options as you lower the difficulty, or again, remove important mechanics or systems that are available on lower difficulties. That doesn't necessarily work. What you want to look for when it comes to good difficulty balance as you're going from easy all the way up, ways of tweaking the game to make things more interesting. A really good example is from Resident Evils, where on the highest difficulty and the more recent ones, you need to use ink ribbons, which used to be a staple of the genre, the staple of the franchise. But again, it's not something that new or people who aren't, fully great or masters of the game would want to deal with. But it's another additional wrinkle or modifier that changes the game just slightly, but increases the challenge. Another popular one would be having unique enemies, or changing the enemy behavior. Maybe on the highest difficulty, enemies are more aware or more attentive to use special moves, or ultimate attacks, or things like that. Again, what I'm doing as a player is consistent from easy all the way up. But how you respond, or specifically how the game is testing you, is going to change. And like I said a few minutes ago, if someone is really fantastic at this game on easy, they should be able to go up to normal or even hard, and it's just the exact same experience for them because they are at that skill level. And another major point about good difficulty design, if your game has, again, 3, 5, 8, how many difficulties you want, the player should be free to adjust them as necessary at any point in the game. If you want to have that super massacre difficulty that once you turn it on, you can't turn it off, I'll allow it to some extent. But for anything else, If somebody reaches a incredibly hard section they find frustrating, they don't want to keep playing, let them drop the difficulty down to super easy mode, blaze right through it, and then bump it back up. You do not want someone to get completely and hopelessly stuck in your game. Because when that happens, most likely they're going to quit. So, to wrap up this short and critical thought, good difficulty again is about finding unique and not stat adjusting ways of either making the game easier or making it harder. Raising or lowering stats does not correct or remove pain points. It just makes them a little less noticeable on the easier settings and a lot more frustrating on the highest ones. Look for ways that people are getting frustrated or ways that they feel like there's an additional challenge or hurdle, and either save them for higher difficulties or use them as either an assist mode or kind of a progressive difficulty or ascension mode. Hades' Pact of Punishment is a really great example, as the pack features all the different ways that Hades can be made a lot harder, and the player is free to decide just how much they want to raise that up. Are they bad at dodging? Well, then maybe we shouldn't turn off, or we won't turn on the increased enemy aggression one. Maybe we're really fast at playing the game. Let's turn on the time limit modifier. And I almost forgot one other point. If you want to add more unique situations or challenges as you go up on difficulty, such as from Thief, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, where on the higher difficulties, more of the map has to be explored, there are more objectives, so you're giving the player more things to do and more ways to test them, beyond just say, all the enemies do more damage or have more health. But that kind of stuff only works once someone has fully grasped your core gameplay loop. And again, as a designer, if you want to see the very best or the very worst of a combat system or action design, then you got to play these games at their most highest challenge, because that's how you're going to spot these pain points. And if you don't learn this, then it's going to be very hard, no pun intended, to design a very balanced action design. And specifically action, we're not talking about RPGs in this video. So, with that said, thank you so much for watching this little, I guess, somewhat shorter critical thought. Do all the liking, subscribing, and commenting. If you're interested in my thoughts on design, check out these game design books. Let me know what you think about this format, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on Game Wisdom, where I examine the art and science of games.